You're listening to The Unsafe Bible with Pastor Ken Brown.
According to their conduct, I will deal with them, and by their judgments I will judge them, and they will know that I am the Lord. God lets the people know through Ezekiel that this time, this third time when they go in, the forces of Babylon are going to do something they didn't do before. They took the gold out, yes, but this time they're going to enter the temple. They're going to go into the holy place. They're going to go into the secret place, the Holy of Holies. They're going to destroy the Holy of Holies.
Today, Pastor Ken will be exhorting you not to fall into the same cycle as the nation of Israel. They were in sin, got judged, and then they repented. God poured out His blessing on them. They grew comfortable, and then they sinned again. Each time the nation of Israel was judged due to worshiping idols and living in deliberate sin, the judgment got more severe. The Lord gave Israel numerous times to repent. Even though Israel had experienced amazing miracles and deliverance by God, they still fell away. Well, let's join Pastor Ken in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 7, as he continues his message, It's the End of the World as We Know It.
They were supposed to be doing business a specific way with remission of debt and all of that taking place every several years, and every 50 years they were supposed to be having a year of Jubilee. The land was supposed to rest. And they had little tricks that they did to get around it. They still do it today. A Jew cannot operate the field, so they'd sell it for a shekel to a Gentile so he could operate it for the next year, and then they'll buy it back for a shekel. That's not what the Bible says. They would continue to use it. But that's one of the tricks that they would use to try and get around what the Scripture says. And as a result, God says, you didn't follow the law. You didn't follow the opportunity for the sabbatical year to take place. Slaves were supposed to be set free every 7 years. Exodus 21:2 clearly says that. But for that to happen, you have to follow the law. They didn't. As a result, they had a slave class in Israel now. And these were people who were Jews. These were not folks who had willingly become a slave. Those are called doulos, where they were bond slaves. They allowed themselves to do that because they loved the house. These are folks who just weren't ever going to be set free. They were now slaves. So you had poor and you had a slave class, even though God said, if you obey me, that'll never happen. So as a result, because they wouldn't release the slaves, God's going to take them and make them slaves. It seemed fair to God. Seems fair to me. You don't want to release the slaves? Fine, you're a slave. And that's how God took care of it. The land, well, you want to buy the land? It never belonged to you in the first place. Remember, it always belonged to God, but now it's going to belong to Nebuchadnezzar. The people forgot about that too. Now they don't own the land anymore either. It belongs to Nebuchadnezzar. So then we come to verse 14, which is another picture being drawn for them. They've blown the trumpet and made everything ready, but no one's going to battle. For my wrath is against all their multitude. The sword's outside, and the plague and the famine are within. He who's in the field will die by the sword, famine, and the plague will also consume those in the city. So we have a picture now of the perspective of the watchman. Every town has a watchman. It's a guy or a class of folks who are hired, and their job is to be on the tower, and their towers all around the city. And they're to be looking constantly, and if an army shows up, they sound the alarm. If there's somebody approaching, they sound the alarm. That's their job, to sound the alarm. That's what they're supposed to do. If you want to give a modern picture of it, it would be a radar operator sitting in a dark room, staring down, making sure that nothing's going to approach. They sound the alarm if something approaches. That's what they're supposed to do. Cities would post these individuals on the wall, and literally, if they did not sound the alarm, then they would be held accountable for not having done that. So if the city survived and everybody's okay, the watchman who was supposed to have sounded the alarm would be taken out and executed. He didn't do his job. That's really an interesting salary continuation program. Do your job and you can live. Don't do your job, you're out of here. The job title sounds fancy, but you could be personally liable for the results. So Ezekiel is a watchman for God, and he's sounding the warning. He's letting everybody know, hey, I'm a watchman. Here's this picture. It's a military picture he's drawing. So he's given an agricultural picture, a business picture, and now he's giving you a civil or military type of picture. Now, remember, they're currently in Israel, there is no army. They're gone. They were taken captive. They're with Ezekiel. All the mighty men are there. And they don't have any weapons, and they can't fight right now. All the mighty men of valor were taken captive, and there is no army in Jerusalem. In 2 Kings 24, verse 14, we see that. Nebuchadnezzar led away into exile all Jerusalem, and all the captains, and all the mighty men of valor, 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and the smiths. So he took anyone who knew anything about war. Any of the officers he took, any of the NCOs he took, they're gone. Anybody who could make weapons, he took them. He took everyone who had anything to do with maintaining military power. They're all gone. They're now in Babylon. None remained except the poorest people of the land. So he led Jehoiachin away into exile to Babylon, also the king's mother and the king's wives and his officials and the leading men of the land. He led away into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. All the men of valor, 7,000, and the craftsmen and the smiths, 1,000, all strong and fit for war, and these the king of Babylon brought into exile to Babylon. So we have no army, we have no industrial complex left to be able to support an army or even build the weapons. They're all in Babylon. We have a light police force that's been left. They have no guidance whatsoever. And if anybody goes outside the wall, he's saying, because nobody's there to be able to sound the alarm, they're going to get killed. The job of a watchman in Jerusalem, is what he's saying here, is a job of utter futility. You can sound the alarm, but there's nobody to go out and answer it. There's no army. There's no weapons. There's no force. There's no anything. So he's saying basically, you have no army. You're going to have no food. You're going to have no water. A great picture for the folks who are back home in Jerusalem. But this is what's going to happen in a couple of years. Then he gets to the fourth picture, and he starts in verse 16. Even when their survivors escape, they will be on the mountains like doves of the valley, all of them mourning, each over his own iniquity. All hands will hang limp, and all knees will become like water. They'll gird themselves with sackcloth, and shuddering will overwhelm them, and shame will be on all faces and baldness on all their heads. The fourth picture is going to the wild, and he's talking about mourning doves. And he's actually pointing to them. He's giving an example from nature. This group, the one that he's talking about in this fourth picture, is the one that the remnant that's going to repopulate the land later actually comes from. These are important people to God, and they recognize their sin. Notice they're mourning over their sin. They realized that they are the reason why all of this is happening. Instead of rejoicing at their escape, the people mourn over their sin. They wear sackcloth, they shave their heads in sorrow and repentance. They're fulfilling Ezekiel's prophecy of Ezekiel 6, verses 9 and 10. And they're not going to be strong enough to fight the enemy. All they can do is say, Lord, save us. That's all they can do. And God will save them. But that's the picture that we see here with this fourth group. And then we get to verse 19. They will fling their silver into the streets, and their gold will become an abhorrent thing. That's kind of interesting. All these people have obtained wealth, and now they're throwing it away. I'll talk about that. Their silver and their gold will not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of the Lord. They cannot satisfy their appetite, nor can they fill their stomachs, for their iniquity has become an occasion of stumbling. They transformed the beauty of his ornaments into pride, and they made the images of their abominations and their detestable things with it. Therefore, I'll make it an abhorrent thing to them. I'll give them into the hands of the foreigners as plunder, and to the wicked of the earth as spoil, and they will profane it. This final picture, and it's not the four pictures that he was saying before. This is the result of what the other four pictures are, but it's literally of folks throwing wealth away. You can't eat gold. I mean, when all of a sudden all you got left is gold and you have no food, you have no water, you have no health, what good is it to have gold? And they just and literally, if you got to head for the hills and you got to run to survive, and you're carrying 100 pounds of gold, what are you going to do with that gold? You're going to drop it because your life is more valuable than that gold. That's what he's saying. It's a picture of people throwing away wealth who had accumulated it, thinking that that was what it was all about. But remember, the Sabbath had not been followed. People were creating wealth by cheating and stealing. And during the final years of the nation, the picture was the rich got richer and the poor got even more oppressed. And that's what it says here in the scripture. So as a result, God was going to take care of that problem. They would literally throw the money away and run for their lives. And of course, Nebuchadnezzar is going to go, oh, look, gold. And he'll take it home with him. In Amos chapter 5, verse 11 and 12, this is more of that picture. This is why the judgment on the rich. Therefore, because you impose heavy rent on the poor and exact a tribute of grain from them, though you've built houses of well-hewn stone, yet you will not live in them. You've planted pleasant vineyards, yet you will not drink their wine. For I know your transgressions are many and your sins are great. You who distress the righteous and accept bribes and turn aside the poor in the gate. Literally, and I love what Habakkuk said about the same group of people, and we've talked about this before. Why are you forcing me to look at iniquity and to stare at wickedness? Social havoc and oppression are all around me. There are legal conflicts and disputes abound. Therefore, the law has become paralyzed and justice never comes about, because criminals outnumber the righteous, and whenever judgments are issued, they come out crooked. I did not read that out of the paper. That was written by Habakkuk about the same time all of this is happening, okay? The people have gold and silver. You can't eat it. I have tried. When I was a child, I tried swallowing pennies. They just went right on through. Couldn't keep them. Didn't digest them. You can't buy food when there's no food. It just doesn't happen. If you escape to the hills and you're trying to save your life, you're going to take that money with you? No, you're not going to. There's no such thing as a checkbook. Wealth was measured in gold, silver, or cattle, and you can't take 1,000 head of cattle with you, too, because everybody's going to know where you are. All they have to do is go, where's the noise? Okay, there they are. So you throw it away. And the enemy, they're going to take it as payment. Habakkuk chapter 2, verses 6 to 11, will not all of these ridicule him with mocking scorn? They'll say, this is the one who is trying to obtain all this wealth. Woe to the one who hoards for himself what isn't his. How long will you enrich yourself by extortion? Won't your creditors revolt unexpectedly? Won't those who make you tremble wake up? As a result, you'll become their prey. We've seen that happen to several banks recently. Because you plundered many nations, all of their remnants will plunder you. Human blood has been shed, and violence has been done to the land, to the city, and to all who live in it. Woe to the one who amasses profit upon unjust profit in order to establish his household, so he can establish a secure place on the heights and escape from the power of evil. You've brought shame to yourself by killing many people. You're forfeiting your own life. Indeed, the stone will cry out from the wall, and the rafter will respond from the woodwork. Habakkuk did not have a good sense of humor about the way that the folks were working in the land, as you can tell. And Ezekiel is now announcing judgment on those same people that Habakkuk was concerned about when he wrote his book. Verse 22 of Ezekiel 7, I will also turn my face from them, and they will profane my secret place. This is God talking about the temple. He's talking about what they're going to do in the temple. Then robbers will enter and profane it. Make the chain, for the land is full of bloody crimes, and the city is full of violence. Therefore I'll bring the worst of the nations, and they will possess their houses. I will also make the pride of the strong ones cease, and their holy places will be profaned. When anguish comes, they'll seek peace, but there will be none. Disaster will come upon disaster. A rumor will be added to rumor. Then they'll seek a vision from a prophet, but the law will be lost from the priest and counsel from the elders. The king will mourn, the prince will be clothed with horror, and the hands of the people of the land will tremble. According to their conduct, I will deal with them, and by their judgments I will judge them, and they will know that I am the Lord. God lets the people know through Ezekiel that this time, this third time when they go in, the forces of Babylon are going to do something they didn't do before. They took the gold out, yes, but this time they're going to enter the temple. They're going to go into the holy place. They're going to go into the secret place, the Holy of Holies. They're going to destroy the Holy of Holies. They're going to defile it. They're going to take all the gold and silver out of it. They're going to take everything that's not nailed down with them, and they're going to destroy anything that's left. And what he's saying is, don't even bother looking to the priests for an answer. Remember, he talked about the priests, how defiled they were before. He's going to get more information about that from God in chapter 8. But right now he's saying, don't bother talking to the priests. They don't have the answer because they're not even looking in the right place. They don't know. For years, the Jews had depended upon the temple to save them. Surely God wouldn't permit his beautiful house to be ruined by pagan soldiers. And I always find that an amazing comment that they felt like, with this going on, that God wouldn't let it be destroyed. Yet 30 years prior, during the revival of Josiah, what was it that they found in the temple that they didn't know was there? God's Word. They found the Torah in the temple. And 30 years later, they now think God won't destroy this? Really? I don't understand that. I mean, it's kind of like, well, we have Bibles, therefore nothing evil can happen to the United States because we have Bibles. Well, no, that doesn't mean something evil can't happen. That would be saying, like the church in Germany during World War II, that no one would destroy that church because there were Bibles, and the U.S. Air Force was an equal opportunity bomber. It didn't matter whether they had Bibles there or not. If it was part of the enemy's infrastructure, it got destroyed. This is the same thing here. The Jews had depended upon the temple, and they thought it would never be ruined by pagan soldiers, but it not only was this time, but it would be destroyed again in 70 A.D. a second time. And the thing is going to be really interesting is that on both occasions, it's the same day of the year, Tish B'Av. They just celebrated, or actually mourned that. It just took place. It was both temples were destroyed on the same day. That's a God thing for that to happen. The temple had become a den of thieves. The Lord was no longer pleased with the sacrifices that was going on there. Talks about that in Isaiah chapter 1. God will allow the pagans to pollute the treasured place. The priests can't give encouragement. They're not worshiping God. They're busy with all the altars that are there. And the people have removed themselves from outside the place of blessing. There is no blessing. There is no protection. They've removed themselves from it under what God had promised that he would do if they had sinned, and they did. Jeremiah chapter 7, Jeremiah, still back in Jerusalem, says this, "Thus says the Lord God of hosts, the God of Israel, amend your ways and your deeds, and I'll let you dwell in this place. Do not trust in deceptive words, saying, this is the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord." Jeremiah was specifically saying, look, if you want to obey God, obey him, everything will be fine. If you don't obey him, just because you say this is God's temple, his place, that's not going to save you. It's not going to save it either, because it's going to get destroyed. In verse 11 of chapter 7 in Jeremiah, he says, "Has this house, which is called by my name, become a den of robbers in your sight? Behold, I, even I, have seen it, declares the Lord." And doesn't that sound familiar? This has become a den of robbers in my sight. Somebody else said the same thing when he went in the temple too. Now, Ezekiel's going to have a vision concerning the temple and what's actually going on in that. We'll get into that next week. But this was not the last time that something evil is going on in the temple. I hinted that another guy used that verse when he went into the temple. Jesus, when he went into the temple in Mark 11, and this is when he's cleansing the temple and he's going to be there for a week, just prior to being crucified. They come to Jerusalem, and he entered the temple and began to drive out those who were buying and selling in the temple, and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who were selling doves, and he would not permit anyone to carry merchandise through the temple. Now stop and think about it. Jesus went into the temple and cleansed it. Got rid of all the money sellers, got rid of all the folks who were selling animals, and then he wouldn't let anybody carry anything through the temple. What he did is he stopped all temple worship, period. When it says that he wouldn't let anything through, Oh, you want to sacrifice that bull? Sorry, not happening, not today. God's no longer here because you're not doing this the right way. And this is God, by the way, who's saying that. He's saying, I'm done with this. We talked about that when we were covering prophecy, that this was one of the major reasons why the enemy decided to move against Jesus immediately, is because he stopped all worship in the temple that day. And in fact, he ended that day by pronouncing a curse upon the temple, saying it was going to be destroyed in 70 AD. But here in Mark 11:15 through 18, as he's doing this, he begins to teach and say to them, Is it not written, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations, but you made it a robber's den, specifically going back to what it said here. The chief priests and the scribe heard this, and they began to seek how to destroy him, for they were afraid of him, for the whole crowd was astonished at his teaching. Jesus had encountered the same attitude and the same spirit that was present in the temple during Ezekiel's day. There was no difference between the spirit in both. They were both the spirit was right out of the pit of hell in both cases. The priests can't answer. We know that now. So they can't answer. And then the next section of Scripture, they talks about the fact that the political system is going to fail as well. It talks about the king will mourn, the prince will be clothed with horror. The political system falls apart as well. Ezekiel is calling on the enemy to make the preparations. He's actually speaking to the enemy, saying, "Get ready, go take them captive. They're ready for this." And it's an explicit prediction. He's really telling them this is what's going to happen. Get ready for it. It's going to happen. It will happen. Verse 25, again, he says, when the anguish comes, they'll seek peace, but there'll be none. Disaster will come upon disaster. Rumor will be added to rumor. They'll seek a vision from the prophet, but the law will be lost from the priest and counsel from the elders. And then civil authority. He's talking about religious authority. Then he goes to civil authority. The king will mourn. The prince will be clothed with horror, and the hands of the people of the land will tremble. According to their conduct, I'll deal with them, and by their judgments, I'll judge them, and they'll know I'm the Lord. Literally, stroke upon stroke, the ruin comes, and it's intensified by reports. And it's like during combat operations, you get rumors of all kinds. I mean, I got a kick out of it during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, that I was getting all these different rumors coming in. In fact, my favorite was, we're all getting ready to go to the desert. Well, really? Anyway, we were actually supposed to be guarding the air base I was at, and everybody was so concerned about being transferred someplace else, and the rumors were so strong, I finally just hung a couple of desert uniforms on my clothes tree so that people would see it as they walked by my office, and they quit talking about it. I don't know why. But rumors just go crazy. People, did you know? You start listening to the rumors, and I mean, my favorite was I asked someone to clean up some gum that was on the ground, and by the time I got back to my office, I had ordered an entire squadron to go and scrape gum off the road. That was a good rumor. I'm just asking one guy to pick up some gum. That was it. You start hearing rumors of this attack or that attack, and these guys are coming here, and these guys are coming here, and you've got people outside the gate, and they're watching the planes take off, and I'm going like, yeah, they've been out there for 5 years. They don't change. They like shooting pictures of tail signs on planes. I mean, it's just rumors, and that's what he's talking about. Because of this going on, you're going to have rumors. You're going to have people who are desperate. They're going to be turning towards anything they can. They're going to look to their leaders of their nation for salvation. The leaders don't have it. It's like I've said on Sunday a couple of times here. Our solution is not in a man or a woman to run this country. Our solution is Jesus Christ. That's what this country needs. It does not need someone else to run it in the ground like everybody's been doing. When God deprives the revelation, knowledge, and counsel, it hits everyone, and they all fall as a result of it.
You've been listening to The Unsafe Bible. Pastor Ken has been teaching through the book of Ezekiel. One of the major prophets, Ezekiel reminds us in many ways about the consequences of sin. Have you ever been on the receiving end of someone's sin and said something like, they'll get theirs? The Jews that we find Ezekiel living with are in the middle of getting theirs during what became a 70-year exile from their homeland, a place they described as their promised land. They had become so prideful and full of self-confidence that God had no choice but to remove the blessings they had received. Ezekiel served as the prophet that would speak to the exiled Jews and slowly walk them back to a life of faith. Do you know someone who needs to be brought back to their faith? Maybe it's you. And if you need help, please don't hesitate to contact us. There's a connection card on our website, theunsafebible.com, for your convenience. Once complete, someone will get in touch with you and answer any questions you have. If you're in the Jupiter, Florida area and would like to connect in person, you'll find directions on the Contact tab. Pastor Ken has more fascinating things to share from this book and others. You can find those messages on our Media tab at theunsafebible.com. Our hope is that you'll grow in God's Word, grow in your faith, and become an extended member of our growing family. That's all for today. Until next time, remember that we all make mistakes and need God's grace and forgiveness. Thanks for listening to The Unsafe Bible.